Hello, welcome to Newscentre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Boeing, which has been a part of India's aerospace sector for 75 years, is readying the F-18 Super Hornet carrier for the Indian Navy. Boeing recently demonstrated the Super Hornet to the Navy in Goa and claims it is the ideal fit for India's naval carriers and will complement its existing cooperation. Its competition is against the Rafale, a fighter which the Indian Air Force already has. I caught up with Steve Parker, Vice President and General Manager of Bombers and Fighters at Boeing Defence. I started by asking him how this aircraft could actually boost India's capabilities.
Great question. You know, should we be selected, what the Indian Navy gets is the most advanced carrier aircraft in the world. So Boeing is just now delivering to the US Navy the Block 3 configuration. We just started delivering it last year. It's the most advanced aircraft, Super Hornet, we've ever built. A 10,000-hour airframe, so think of life, 20, 30, 40 years of life for the Indian Navy. It's got all the latest sensors, all the latest fifth-gen sensors that will be integrated into the Super Hornet. So it's got, you know, a really powerful radar for detecting threats. It's the right choice. We really do believe it's the right choice for the Indian Navy. When you look at peacekeeping missions, defence of India, and being tied in with a US Navy, the largest Navy in the world. You know, the Indian Navy is picking up on billions of dollars of US investment.
Right.
Yeah.
The Indian government has been focusing a lot on making in India for the defence sector, local partnerships, localization. If you were to win this deal, win this contract for 26 aircraft, what would be your localization strategy, make in India strategy?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. You know, to me, I've done a lot of work in India over time, and I worked very closely with Tata, with a joint venture that Boeing had, where we produce Apache fuselages, not just for India, but for every Apache customer around the world. It's very similar for the Super Hornet. We've got a package that we think is you know, very, very compelling, $3.6 billion over 10 years, and it's focused on engineering and manufacturing, as well as work that we can put in country. But from a Boeing perspective, our track record in India, we believe, humbly, is second to none. When we make a commitment, we honour that commitment. We're going to do the same with Super Hornet. And it's not so much in terms of just what work transfers in from the US, it's about developing indigenous Indian capability so that India can produce products longer term and export. Apache is a great example. Every fuselage that is built in Hyderabad in that joint venture is exported around the world. So that's our focus. We've taken a long view. We've been here for 75 years. We're very proud of the relationship with India. And that's why I think we've got a really good package here. The aircraft is amazing. We believe it's the right solution. The only two-seat fighter that can operate off the Indian carrier. Big game changer there. Can control unmanned aircraft. Autonomous capabilities coming, but make it in India critically important. And I think we've got a really good package, along with members of our Hornet industry team, General Electric, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. Yeah, we feel we've got a pretty compelling package there.
Manufacturing in India, is that a possibility in future?
Absolutely, yeah. We're looking at some work packages that we'll bring in. You know, and again, not just Super Hornet, but other platforms. Today, in Indian suppliers, we have over 300 Indian suppliers. So even in my portfolio of bombers and fighters, F-15, Super Hornet, T-7 trainer, and others. So we're very proud of how the Indian company's supply base is coming forth. Great capability, and then the engineering prowess in India. You know, we have 4,000 employees in India, and it's more than just software. It's aeronautical engineering. It's real value-added work on the manufacturing side.
You've spoken about 3.6 billion over a period of 10 years. Would that be the total cost of the contract? What would be the cost per aircraft?
Cost per aircraft, I'm going to stay away from because it's a competitive you know, bidding process. But that 3.6 billion is over and above the commitments we've already made in India. So again, we'll work out the finer details. You're going to see some more announcements over the next couple of months prior to Def Expo. But again, it's not just work for the sake of the value. We've looked at it from what's important for India. You know, what's the government's real agenda? What's their purpose? What do they want to do? And pulling on our Indian team here, the 4,000 strong team, I think we've got some really good stuff that's going to pop out. Should we be selected with the Super Hornet?
Right. I'd also like to ask you about the Rafale, your main competitor when it comes to fighter aircraft for the Indian Navy is the Rafale Marine. They are already in India. We have a contract for Rafale aircrafts with the French government. How do you think this deal could be successful when you already have an aircraft here in India? And we also hear that in case both these companies qualify, Rafale would have an edge.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, to me it's very simple. I think very simply. And it's as simple as this. When you're on a carrier out in the blue sea, do you want the best aircraft that's going to bring your pilots back and give you the maximum chance of success against an adversary? Or do you want something that you might have got because somebody already had a presence here? I think the Indian Navy wants the best aircraft to make sure that the Indian nation is protected, and that's what we believe. Now, that being said, we've also got the track record in country from a Make in India perspective. So I like our chances. I think the value proposition that we've put forward is strong. Again, it's for 26 aircraft, 18 single seat, 6 two-seat. Only our Super Hornet can operate off the carrier with a two-seat aircraft. And that's the aircraft that can control the drones and provides the autonomy. That's a compelling advantage. So when you buy 26 of our Super Hornets, you can operate all 26 off the carrier. The competition can't say that.
When it comes to defense cooperation between India and the United States, there are 3 agreements, 3 to 4 agreements which have been signed over the years, which will guide our defense partnership and also technology transfer, sale of defense equipment. You've got the LEMOA, you've got the COMCASA and the Industrial Security Annex. How will this deal, if it goes through, how will it help to leverage these agreements and what will India get out of that?
Yeah, I think, at its most basic, this is a great opportunity for the relationship between India and the US to continue to prosper. I think over the last decade, we've really seen some strong ties being developed. This is an opportunity for the Indian Navy to take advantage of the significant investment the US government's made in the Super Hornet, over 800 aircraft delivered, just delivering the latest capability, and all of the things that can come from that relationship. And in times of need right now, the world's, it's a different place with some of the conflicts around the world. This is a time for a strengthening of that relationship, I think, country to country, and this is a great way of doing it through the Super Hornet acquisition and the sharing of knowledge from a carrier air wing perspective, and potentially a sharing of knowledge of how we will utilise uncrewed vehicles and unmanned vehicles together in the future, both nations.
Give us a sense of how many of these Super Hornet Block 3 aircrafts are in service right now.
It's hundreds. The Australians have a fleet. Kuwaitis will soon be getting their deliveries of their Super Hornets. The Navy runs Growlers. There's well over 150 Growlers, which is an electronic attack version of the Super Hornet. And then the Super Hornet itself, it's 500 or 600. So our value proposition here is it's low risk. All of the systems have already been developed. It's ready to go day one. We know the carrier's coming soon, very soon. This is the aircraft to put on it. Proven in peacetime and at wartime. We think this is the right solution.
Right. And my final question would be, if this deal were to go through, first of all, are you looking at a certain timeline? Are you urging the Indian government to come to a consensus, make a decision within a certain timeline, first of all?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, look, it's the Indian government's decision to make. I'm not going to...
Because we hear it's still a long way off.
Yeah, I think, look, we've had a very, very successful operational demo down in Goa a few months ago. We've released video footage. I think it was, perhaps the most tweeted story when it popped out. But I think the down selection is probably coming imminently, the next month or so, from the US Navy, and then it'll go through the government process. We'd like to understand, where we sit, because we've got a production line that we're delivering US Navy aircraft to. So again, we're protecting slots, if I could say that, for the Indian Navy. But decision needs to come shortly, and hopefully, we'll hear something towards the end of the year. But we feel, we've put a good offer in. We feel like we understand the requirements. The capability speaks for itself, and I think our Make in India strategy and what we put forward there as well is very, very compelling.
So you're hoping for a decision on the aircraft by the end of the year?
I would like to think there might be a down select in terms of which of the two platforms the Navy is going forward with, and then obviously it'll go through the government timeline. And I won't try and predict what that timeline may be. It could be into next year. We'll see. We may be doing another interview again and talking about.
And you wouldn't want to give us the cost per aircraft or the total cost of the deal that you're pitching to the government?
No. And part of this, it's a foreign military sale with the US government, so that'll be up for them to talk about. But typically, we don't talk about costs of the aircraft until we've been selected because it's a competition.
And finally, if this deal goes through, what is the timeline for delivery that we would look at for the entire 26 aircraft?
Yeah, look, we've got an active production line right now. I'm doing 24 aircraft a year. I've got another modernisation line where I'm taking Block 2 Hornets for the US Navy and I'm producing them in a Block 3 configuration. So we're very flexible with what the US Navy may need. We just want to make sure that we can secure those slots. I would like to think of a decision in the let's say within the next 3 or 4 months, and then we can start talking about when deliveries want to take place. And certainly Boeing has shown in the past that we will lean forward working with our customers to protect those delivery slots, and there's things that we can do there to make sure that we can deliver on time.
36 months is the...
36 months is the typical timeline for most aviation products, but there are things that we can do along with the US Navy here to get them much quicker to the Indian Navy, should they desire it, which I think they will. When it comes back to the cost on the question you just asked me, what I will tell you is the Super Hornet has the best cost per flying hour track record of any fighter. Publicly available data in the US, it's $19,000 cost per flying hour. A lot of the other fighters are double that from a range. So, again, we think we've got a really attractive acquisition cost, we've got an attractive sustainment cost, a very, very robust Make in India package, real good long-term work. We think we've got a compelling package. We're just we're humbled to be able to offer it, and we're hopeful that the Indian Navy will select us.
India has twin challenges. Aggression at the Chinese border, aggression at the Pakistan border as well. How will this aircraft help us on both these fronts? Because any decision will be guided by tensions with these two neighbours.
Yeah. Look, one way of looking at this is when the US Navy deploys their carrier battle group all over the world through the South China Sea, the Super Hornet is the strike fighter backbone. That is the aircraft that is out there each and every day. It will be no different for India. Now, it can play the naval role. It also is a very, very effective land-based aircraft. The Australians operate it. The Royal Australian Air Force operate it in Australia to that effect. Super Hornets teamed in with Growlers. So again, very capable, very, very large weapon load, extremely competitive from a range perspective. We think we've got a range, so a distance it can operate over a carrier or a distance it can operate over land. Coupled with its payload, its reduced signature from a survivability perspective, and some of the survivability items that I can't talk about. Again, it's the backbone for the US Navy. If it is protecting their carriers and the US way of life, it's going to find its way into India and do a great job there as well.
Right. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
But the Super Hornet Block 3 has stiff competition from the Rafale aircraft. So let's see what happens. They have demonstrated the aircraft in Goa to the Indian Navy, but a final decision on paper is still quite far off, according to sources in the Indian Navy. On that note, we take a short break. Up next, a parliamentary panel on finance has quizzed executives of big tech companies on their anti-competitive practices. We will be joined by Amar Patnaik, BJP MP and member of the Parliamentary Committee of Finance on the other side.
अरे सिर्फ 19,400।
हर बड़ी खरीदारी लाती है बड़ी झिझक।
1,19,000। बेटा आजकल सबका मोबाइल पे होता है। ये लैपटॉप का जमाना तो गया।
सर, मैं आपकी झिझक मिटाऊं?
आप कौन?
मैं इनोवेटिव करूं हर परचेज इजी, किसी भी डेबिट या क्रेडिट कार्ड पे EMI ऑप्शंस दिलाकर।
लीजिए सर, आपका बिल हो गया डिवाइड
और खुशियां मल्टीप्लाई।
इनोवेटिव हर स्वाइप में एक नई कहानी।
India is the largest and the fastest growing economy and will witness the largest increase in energy demand worldwide in the coming decades. Clean and green energy will play a major role in meeting this increased demand, where what will matter most will be the accessibility and affordability of power. This is where Tata Power intends to play a major role by enabling businesses and consumers to make a small yet significant changes today for attaining a sustainable lifestyle.
तुझे तगड़ा इंसेंटिव मिला है। क्या प्लान है?
सोच रहा हूँ गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्ट करूँ।
बिल्कुल सही सोच रहे हैं आप। अब गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्ट करना आसान हो गया है।
पर कैसे?
आरबीआई रिटेल डायरेक्ट स्कीम में बिना ब्रोकर के आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं और आपको आपकी पूंजी पर मिलेंगे रिटर्न्स। आरबीआई पोर्टल पर जाइए, मुफ्त में अकाउंट खोलिए और अपने बैंक खाते से सीधे पैसे इन्वेस्ट कीजिए। सुरक्षित, आसान।
रिटायरमेंट के बाद मैं भी यही इन्वेस्ट करूँगा।
बहुत सही कह रहे हैं आप। आरबीआई कहता है
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
कोई फायदा नहीं आप।
कोई जरूरत नहीं भाई।
नई कार खरीदने से पहले एको इंश्योरेंस कंपनी चेक करे और 50,000 तक बचाए।
Tata Power is working towards a very aggressive and ambitious target of achieving sustainable operations across all its lines of businesses. Tata Power is the first company in the country with a net zero target by 2045. We strongly believe that sustainable is attainable for every one of us. Small changes that we will make in our everyday lives today will make a greener and more sustainable tomorrow for our future.
Welcome back. You're watching Newscentre. Members of the Parliamentary Panel on Finance met representatives of big tech companies like Meta, Google, Amazon, Apple and others. The panel questioned their use of data, the fee imposed on app developers and other alleged anti-competitive practices. Tech companies defend their policies and claim there is no dearth of competition. Amar Patnaik, BJP MP and member of the Parliamentary Committee on Finance, is with us right now. Mr. Patnaik, there are a number of issues that the committee has been examining, ranging from high subscription fees charged by some of these big tech companies, how they use data and whether the usage of data bars the entry of competitors, the keyword billing policy, policies to remove apps as well. What was the big concern that the committee has been focusing on?
See, the concern with the big tech companies are well known. For example, market dominance because of the network effect that they have, the pricing, the bundling of products, and of course the use of data. So these issues are already in the public domain. The exact deliberations in the Parliamentary Committee, of course, I can't divulge because of the confidentiality clauses. But however, I can say that on these big issues, how the big tech companies are using this market dominance because of the power they enjoy for having this network effect. And we must also admit that a lot of our innovation is emerging out of this network effect. So these are the questions, these are the issues around which questions have been raised in the public domain. And of course, these are the questions which are agitating the minds of the Parliamentary Committee, and therefore were posed to the big tech companies.
Right. One thing that many of the Indian players have been asking for, and something that parliamentarians have been also asking for, is a level playing field. How will that be ensured? Does the Indian legal system have enough safeguards to ensure fair competition, or do you feel that it is time for a new law?
Absolutely on dot the question, bang on, because I think the competition law that we have were designed at a time when the big tech's network effect and the network effect's power to gain market dominance was not factored into the law at that time. So therefore, there is definitely the right time to review those laws, whether it is to come in through an amendment or whether a new law is required, is something that has to be debated, that the government will have to decide. But there is no question about the fact that this entire issue has to be addressed by the Competition Commission from a very different lens, and not the lens that is used for the physical world, because this is the digital world. We also have to leverage the fact of digital economy, pumping up the economy. We shouldn't be stifling it by over-regulation. So the regulatory challenges are immense, but not to say that there is no requirement of regulation. There is a requirement because huge amounts of data are collected and used by these big tech companies through multiple algorithms, and many of those algorithms could be biased. So therefore, I think there is a need for regulation, but we have to be careful to see that in the name of antitrust practices, it shouldn't happen that the entire explosion that we are seeing for good in our country in the digital ecosystem should get really affected.
Right. A question in the minds of policymakers in India and also abroad is what will be the level of compliance with the EU Digital Markets Act, the latest Digital Markets Act that the European Union has come up with? How closely are you looking at that, and how important would be for India to take a cue from the Digital Markets Act of the European Union?
That would be useful. The EU Digital Markets Act will be useful, but the context will have to be analyzed. The context in the European Union is that there is free, the big tech can actually get into retail, and therefore their mode of e-commerce, let's say, is a hybrid mode. Whereas in our system, it is not hybrid. They can only use their services as a platform and get buyers and sellers over there. So to do a cut and paste kind of a thing from the EU Digital Markets Act would probably not be proper. Our context will be different, and therefore we have to tailor the Digital Markets Act to our needs. And most significantly, we also have to understand that India is now growing in the startup ecosystem. The unicorns are coming, so we shouldn't be stifling that innovation that these players are coming in and creating wealth as well as jobs and employment at the tier 2 and tier 3 cities level. The question of level playing field is, of course, the most important thing. So a principle-based system could actually be built into the new competition law or an amendment to the existing competition law. And these principles would actually be the underlying factors to give a level playing field. The rules could actually then keep changing depending on how the market evolves on the big tech side. And therefore, the bringing in the EU Digital Markets Act and putting it lock, stock and barrel into the Indian scenario would probably not be proper. And I think all of us are cognizant of this.
Right. Just to ask you about a couple of things that the committee has been examining, and this has been coming out in public domain. They're looking at the issue of pricing. They're looking at platform neutrality, how data is used, and whether the usage of data bars the entry of competitors as well. What, according to you, is the most critical thing to look at as far as the Indian context goes and Indian players go?
Number one is level playing field, as you mentioned. Number two, I think the network effect that the big tech bring in, that's at the root of the innovation. So really, we can only regulate it to such an extent that the Indian players do not suffer. But the heart of the matter of anti-competitive practices is the use of data. The amount of data that is collected from Indian citizens, and India is a big market, so how it is used would be very important. And therefore, only the competition law, in my opinion, only the competition law would probably not be able to address this. We need to have, the privacy law. We need to have the IT law. So the entire digital ecosystem should be harmonized in such a manner that there is no scope for regulatory arbitrage. There is no scope for ambiguity, and also there is no scope for a kind of stifling of the growth of the digital economy in the country. The points that you mentioned relating to the market dominance that is happening because of the network effect, the pricing that they can control the pricing, they can take down various applications. Now these are matters of detail which are very concerning, of course. So these are the very significant aspects where there should be very less discretion left to the competition commissioner, and it should actually be coded. But while coding it, it shouldn't be a hard regulation because, as I said, technology is evolving and evolving very fast. The regulations should be to keep pace with that, which doesn't often happen. And each time to bring it to a parliament to pass it would actually delay the entire process. So principle-based systems should be there, and the rules actually should get into the details of how to take care of these issues of platform neutrality, market dominance, pricing, and the most important thing is use of data. In the Indian context, as you asked me, I think it is the use of data.
Okay, the use of data is the most important. My final question, we are also reading reports that the Parliamentary Committee on Finance may submit a report in the first week of September. What will that be about? What kind of direction would that give to the policy ecosystem, to the government when it comes to regulating the use of data by big tech companies and some of these anti-competitive practices as well?
The chairman of the committee will take a call on this. The members would, of course, be consulted. So I guess you will have to wait for the report, the shape and the content of the report. But I think time has come for parliamentary committee, the government itself, to start thinking about this, because we already have an act in the European Union. We need to have in India, because, as I said, India is one of the biggest markets which is available to the big tech. Many good things are happening, but I think we will also have to ensure that the competition is maintained. The small players do not get stifled, particularly the Indian ones. There is no harm that is caused to citizens who are in these platforms.
All right, Mr. Amar Patnaik, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on the direction that India's regulatory ecosystem can take when it comes to anti-competitive practices of big tech companies, and why is it important to check the usage of data and whether it bars the entry of competitors in the Indian context. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Newscentre. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.